Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a great old one of great power who lies in a death-like slumber beneath the Pacific Ocean in his sunken city of Relaya. He remains a dominant presence in the eldritch dealings on our world. The most detailed descriptions of Cthulhu are based on statues of the creature. One, constructed by an artist after a series of baleful dreams, is said to have yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, a pulpy, tentacled head surmounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings. Another, recovered by police from a raid on a murderous cult, represented a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly, rubbery-looking body, prodigious claws on hind and fore feet, and long, narrow wings behind. Castro, a Cthulhu cultist, reports that the Great Old Ones are telepathic and knew all that was occurring in the universe. They were able to communicate with the first humans by molding their dreams, thus establishing the Cthulhu Cult, but after Relaya had sunk beneath the waves, the deep waters, full of the one primal mystery through which not even thought can pass, had cut off the spectral intercourse. It is unknown how large the throng of those who worship the dreaded Cthulhu is, but his cult has many cells around the globe. The cult is noted for chanting its horrid phrase or ritual, Phengui Mglwnaf Cthulhu Relaya Gunagolftain, which translates as, in his house at Relaya dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. This is often shortened to Cthulhu Ftain, which might possibly mean Cthulhu waits, Cthulhu dreams, or Cthulhu waits dreaming. When the creature finally appears, the story says that the thing cannot be described, but it is called the green, sticky spawn of the stars, with flabby claws, and an awful squid head with writhing feelers. Johansson's phrase, a mountain walked or stumbled, gives a sense of the creature's scale. This is corroborated by Wilcox's dreams, which touched wildly on a gigantic thing miles high which walked or lumbered about. Cthulhu is depicted as having a worldwide cult centered in Arabia, with followers in regions as far-flung as Greenland and Louisiana. There are leaders of the cult in the mountains of China who are said to be immortal. Cthulhu is described by some of these cultists as the great priest of the great old ones who lived ages before there were any men, and who came to the young world out of the sky. Cthulhu is also worshipped by the non-human creatures known as Deep Ones. History. Cthulhu is mentioned in other sources, sometimes described in ways that appear to contradict information given the most well-known accounts. For example, rather than including Cthulhu among the Great Old Ones, a quotation from the Necronomicon says of the Old Ones, Great Cthulhu is their cousin, yet can it spy them only dimly. But different Lovecraft stories and characters use the term Old Ones in widely different ways. Human explorers in Antarctica discovered an ancient city, for example, where the Old Ones are described as a species of extraterrestrials, also known as Elder Things, who were at war with Cthulhu and his relatives or allies. The discoverers of the Elder Things were able to puzzle out a history from sculptural records. With the upheaval of new land in the South Pacific, tremendous events began. Another race, a land race of beings shaped like octopi and probably corresponding to the fabulous pre-human spawn of Cthulhu, soon began filtering down from cosmic infinity and precipitated a monstrous war which for a time drove the Old Ones wholly back to the sea. Later peace was made, and the new lands were given to the Cthulhu spawn whilst the Old Ones held the sea, and the older lands, the Antarctic, remained the center of the Old Ones' civilization, and all the discoverable cities built there by the Cthulhu spawn were blotted out. Then suddenly the lands of the Pacific sank again, taking with them the frightful stone city of Relaya and all the cosmic octopi, so that the Old Ones were once again supreme on the planet. William Dyer, part of the Antarctic expedition, also notes that the Cthulhu spawn seemed to have been composed of matter more widely different from that which we know than was the substance of the Antarctic Old Ones. They were able to undergo transformations and reintegrations impossible for their adversaries, and seem therefore to have originally come from even remoter gulfs of cosmic space. The first sources of the other beings can only be guessed at with bated breath. He notes, however, that the Old Ones might have invented a cosmic framework to account for their occasional defeats. Other stories have the Elder Things' enemies repeat this cosmic framework. In another account, there is a reference to the fearful myths antedating the coming of man to the earth, the Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu cycles, which are hinted at in the Necronomicon. That suggests that Cthulhu is one of the entities worshipped by the alien Migo race, and repeats the Elder Things' claim that the Migo share his unknown material compositions. Cthulhu's advent is also connected, in some unknown fashion, with supernovae. I learned whence Cthulhu first came, and why half the great temporary stars of history had flared forth. The story mentions in passing that some humans call the Mi-Go, the Old Ones. Investigations into the cult activity in Innsmouth, Massachusetts has revealed that Cthulhu is also worshipped by the non-human creatures known as Deep Ones. The priest Cathalos is Cthulhu. A quotation from the Necronomicon states of the Old Ones, Great Cthulhu is their cousin, yet can it spy them only dimly. But the term Old Ones is often used in widely different ways. According to one account, the Old Ones are a species of extraterrestrials, also known as Elder Things, who were at war with Cthulhu and his relatives or allies. Human explorers in Antarctica discover an ancient city of the Elder Things and puzzle out a history from sculptural records. With the upheaval of new land in the South Pacific, tremendous events began. Another race, a land race of beings shaped like octopi and probably corresponding to the fabulous pre-human spawn of Cthulhu, soon began filtering down from cosmic infinity and precipitated a monstrous war which for a time drove the Old Ones wholly back to the sea. Later peace was made, and the new lands were given to the Cthulhu spawn, whilst the Old Ones held the sea, and the older lands, the Antarctic, remained the center of the Old Ones' civilization, and all the discoverable cities built there by the Cthulhu spawn were blotted out. Then suddenly the lands of the Pacific sank again, taking with them the frightful stone city of Relia and all the cosmic octopi, so that the Old Ones were once again supreme on the planet. William Dyer also notes that the Cthulhu spawn seem to have been composed of matter more widely different from that which we know than was the substance of the Antarctic Old Ones. They were able to undergo transformations and reintegrations impossible for their adversaries, and seem therefore to have originally come from even remoter gulfs of cosmic space. The first sources of the other beings can only be guessed at with bated breath. He notes, however, that the Old Ones might have invented a cosmic framework to account for their occasional defeats. Other accounts have the Elder Things' enemies repeat this cosmic framework. According to one, the fearful myths antedating the coming of man to the earth, the Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu cycles, which are hinted at in the Necronomicon. That suggests that Cthulhu is one of the entities worshipped by the alien Mi-Go race, and repeats the Elder Things' claim that the Mi-Go share his unknown material compositions. Cthulhu's advent is also connected, in some unknown fashion, with supernovae. I learned whence Cthulhu first came, and why half the great temporary stars of history had flared forth. Some humans call the Mi-Go, the Old Ones. Family. This subject contains information from the expanded Cthulhu mythos, and not based on H.P. Lovecraft's works directly. With the revelation of writing detailing his relations, we have learned that Cthulhu descends from Yog-Sothoth, possibly having been born on Vurel, in the 23rd nebula. He mated with Idya on the planet Soph. His offspring are Gatanathoa, Ithogtha, Zathamag, and Thilla. Family tree. According to correspondence between Lovecraft and fellow author James F. Morton, Cthulhu's parent is the deity Nug, itself the offspring of Yog-Sothoth and Shub-Niggurath. Lovecraft includes a fanciful family tree in which he himself descends from Cthulhu via Shorash-Ho, Yogash the Ghoul, Gba the Serpent, and Goth the Burrower.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.